hint. I wasn't going to do a live stream today, but then I just got really heated about it and I decided that I really, really wanted to. So you can tell there's nothing behind me anymore. My bookshelf is missing and it's just a blank, ugly paint wall, not my color choice of paint. But as I have alluded to, we are leaving. We are going on a little traveling as a family. So we are just moving everything out, which is another reason that I wasn't going to do this week. But here we are. I'm going to do it. So today the topic is, what did I call it? I don't know. I just pulled it up because, like I said, I wasn't going to do it. But the topic is, let's see. It is the Rhetoric of America First. What did we say? Nobody's here, so why not? Okay, no, somebody is here. You've been waiting all day for this. Well, I hope I don't disappoint then. Thank you and welcome, Best Family Reviews. Okay, so the topic today is the Utopia of America First Rhetoric. So the questions we're going to ask today are all revolved around America First, freedom, the rhetoric of America being the greatest country in the world. And don't get me wrong, I am not here to speak ill of the country of the United States of America. I just want, like always, to ask some questions. All right. So first thing I want to first off, since we're just kind of getting started, typically I don't sit, I do come up with some questions to kind of like push the discussion along, but typically I don't come up with a whole bunch of, kind of like scripting, and I'm definitely not going to script today. I don't want to do that. But I found myself as I was preparing, just couldn't stop. It was just like nonstop. So you can see I do have my computer here today. I'm super uncomfortable in this chair. This is like, we have basically nothing and I'm just kind of super uncomfortable. I wonder if I sit forward though. This is like, I need like a space, right? So it's just to the point. Okay. Okay. So we're just going to kick this off. Okay. This is much better. This is a better position. Okay. So everybody knows about the Truman Show, right? We all know this baby was born. He was adopted by a television station, and then he was raised in this completely scripted environment where everything was choreographed. All of his relationships were fake. Everything was fake. Oh, turn on my Wi-Fi. Sorry. Let me see if I can do that. Let's see. Hopefully that will work. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Thanks for the reminder. Do you want the Wi-Fi on? Okay, hopefully that will kick on. Okay, so Truman Show, yes, complete everything in his life, totally choreographed, totally scripted, contrived, and we all laugh and we joke about it. What a great, we felt it. We actually watched it with our kids the other day. But we think like, well, what part of that is real? But what if it's all real? And they have been telling us all along. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So thank you everybody for coming today. Thank you for watching the stream. Please like and subscribe. Obviously it helps the channel. Everybody says that. So you know the drill. Okay. Like the entire rest of the world, I have been watching Candace Owens, and she was gone last week for Thanksgiving. Good for her for taking that time off. Obviously she's got a lot on her plate, but it was also Thanksgiving. And regardless of what you think about Thanksgiving, like spending time with family is always a really great deal. So, I have been hanging on her every word. And why? Why is she the number one podcast in America? Because she's the only one asking the really relevant questions, the only one asking the questions that everybody really wants to know, and the only one that's actually basically on the face of it, not afraid to ask these questions. So enough, I never watched Candace Owens before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I never watched Charlie Kirk before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I knew about the both of them, but I never actually watched them. And don't believe that's a mistake. Don't believe the fact that I never watched them and now all of a sudden I am is some mistake, like a mistake by the people that are controlling the matrix, right? Controlling everything that we see and do. That is not a mistake. It is 100% an intended outcome. So we're not of our own volition turning to Candace. And don't get me wrong, it does not mean that she is in on it. I am not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not accusing anybody of being a part of anything, much less Candace Owens. I'm not jumping on that train. Just like a couple weeks ago, I'm not jumping on the train of Erica Kirk and her grief being fake. I am not jumping on that train. So nobody misconstrue what I'm saying. What I am saying is that everything up to this point, just like in the Truman Show, has been manipulated, contrived, and we've all been bottlenecked into this road. Why is we want to believe Candace Owens is the only one talking about this because she's the only one brave enough to talk about it. Let's be real. They could shut her up the second that they wanted to. There's absolutely no reason she is still on YouTube unless they want her on YouTube and they want everybody looking in one direction and watching what she's saying. Now, that doesn't mean that what she's saying isn't honest, isn't real, isn't factual, isn't true, isn't digging, isn't any of those things. But let's be truthful and honest and fair. They have demonetized, deplatformed, taken off, removed, assassinated whoever they want to, whenever they've wanted to. And so if they're not, you have to be asking the question, why? Okay, so Charlie Kirk assassinated, public spectacle, 100% planned, organized, choreographed, beat by beat, beginning to end, and nothing that ever has happened or will happen is unexpected by the people that are in power. If we just lay that as the groundwork, then we'll know where we're at, where I'm coming from. And I'd love to hear your opinions in the chat about what you think about this discussion. Okay. Turning Point USA is not scrambling. They are made to look inept for a reason. The French Legionnaire is not scrambling. Bibi Netanyahu is not scrambling. They all have a script. They all are doing. And I want to tell you why I think this. Okay. I want to tell you about a little show called Utopia. If you haven't seen it, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Not for kids, but I highly, highly recommend it. I meant to look up where you can watch it. I mean, Google it, whatever. So it's got John Cusack and Rainn Wilson and a bunch of other people, but those are probably the most recognizable people. And it came out in 2020. And it is about this underground comic that was not supposed to kind of make it to the light of day. So only a few people know about this comic, but basically it illustrated and it wrote out the whole story of the plan that the powers that be have for the worldwide public, for the slaves, as you will, for the people that are, we're just living our everyday lives, and we're just trying to make our own way in the world. We're trying to have families and enjoy life and make enough money to survive, right? So this is the plan. And again, I am talking about a television show. This is all about a television show called Utopia. Okay, so that's the basic plot. And in the future that is written out in this comic book, and the viewers know it, is that there is a plan. It is a government plan, a world government's plan to get the human population to willingly sterilize themselves to reduce population by taking a vaccine. Okay, super on the nose. It is just super right there. Now, on the one side, you can argue, okay, well, that's just conspiracy. That's what everybody's saying about Bill Gates. And they just wrote a TV show about conspiracy, right? Just, it's interesting. On the other hand, you could say, maybe it's not. Maybe it's more than that, right? There's always going to be two sides, two coins to every story. And my opinion is that you should always look at both of those sides. You should always consider and take the path of both until you find where they converge. And that's where we're going to find our truth, right? That's what the entire study of philosophy is. It's considering every single possible outcome until you come to the one that you can't take anymore. Once you've reached the end, the final conclusion of a thought process, and that's when you've reached, your decision point. Okay. But that's not even the most interesting part of the show. Okay. That is like, that's just, like I said, you can argue that. You can talk about whether or not that's like just based off of real life conspiracy and wackos that talk about stuff like that on the internet, right? Okay. That's not the most interesting part. The most interesting part is that they have human farms on the show. So again, this is all about a TV show, Utopia. On the show, they have these human farms, and on the human farms, they raise children. They have caretakers, parents, if you will, and the children are all raised on this farm. They're not allowed to leave. They're not allowed to go do anything else. They're not allowed to learn anything else. They don't have access to, everything that we all have access to. They just live on these farms. And they are farmed as humans to be used, right? Like, what do we use farms for? We use farms for raising animals to then either eat, feed, repopulate, right? That's what farms are for. They serve a purpose. The animals on the farm serve a purpose, and then that purpose will be acted out. So on these human farms in the show, these children are raised until they have a purpose to live out, right? And their purpose is to go act in the show, to go act out, either to prove the vaccine works, to push the vaccine, to push the agenda of what they want. And specifically, there's this one girl, and her role is to show that the vaccine works. So she comes out of the farm, and she takes the vaccine to show that it's life-saving and it will save everybody from this horrible virus and vaccine. And she recovers from the vaccine and all is well. And everybody, of course, decides to take it. And that's the premise of the show. Well, the human farm is mostly made up of twins, identical twins on this human farm. And the girl comes out, her purpose is to take the vaccine. She dies from the vaccine, and they bring out her twin who doesn't get the vaccine to show that it works. And it sways public opinion, and everybody believes it, and it's a done deal. Okay. So that is a show, right? I just want to be very, very clear. This is all a TV show. I'm just describing a TV show. And again, this show is called Utopia. Okay. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because, like I said, I just started watching Candace Owens first time. And I have a lot to catch up on, right? So she's got all of her current stuff about Charlie Kirk, which is phenomenal. But then she's got her whole Brigitte Macron series, which, more people are watching that now than ever did before. And then she's also got this whole series on Kamala Harris and who were Kamala Harris's parents. And I am listening to her talk about all of these things. I'm listening to her talk about Brigitte Macron, which, let's be fair. And what's not fair about this whole situation is, why are they going after Candace when she's not the one who unveiled all this? She's not the one who uncovered all this. She's not the one who wrote the book about it. She's not the one who investigated Brigitte Macron. She's not the one who found Jean-Michel Trogneau. She didn't find any of these people. She didn't do any of the research. She just talked about it. Somebody else did all the research. Somebody else wrote the book. She's just talking about it. So point and case number one, don't talk about what you're not supposed to talk about, right? That's the real problem. So I'm listening to all this Brigitte Macron stuff, right? And there's a lot of children dying. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. But okay, there's a lot of takeaways, but I'm just going to point out my takeaways. Okay, with the Brigitte Macron story, Jean-Michel Trogneau, right? There's questionable, missing timelines, missing history, missing photos. But there are these two individuals, and intermixed with all these individuals is missing babies who have died, identities of people who have died or passed on or just fell off the face of the earth, and we don't know who they are anymore. Okay, that's so interesting. It doesn't prove anything. It's just so interesting. And then I started watching her Kamala Harris series. And once again, we are missing photos, birth certificates. We are missing timelines. People are falling off the face of the earth where we can't find a paper trail for them anymore. babies are dying, assuming new identities, right? We can't prove people are assuming new identities, but what we can say is that they're showing pictures of people that aren't who they are, right? Aren't who they say they are. People that appear out of nowhere. There's no history for them. And all of a sudden, it just happens out of nowhere. And it's the same story. It's the same exact story. As somebody who has studied a lot of LDS, Mormon, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint history, it comes up again and again and again. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was founded by Joseph Smith and then was took over by Brigham Young. Nobody knows Brigham Young's backstory, right? And this is 200 and some odd years ago, but nobody knows where he came from. Nobody knows who his family is. Nobody, and if you try and push it or question it, right, you're bad. You're bad because these people have been held up to this high standard. They are French Parliament. They're the first, man and woman of France. They are running for president, or they were the vice president, or they were, the founder, the prophet, this illustrious person of a church, and you're not allowed to ask questions. But again, it's all these same things coming up. We don't know who these people are, where they came from, whose identity were they, who had an identity before they were in this position. And it just keeps coming up again and again and again and again. So that's why this is relevant, because we keep having these same stories. Keep being sold this same bill of goods that doesn't add up. Like what we're buying, we're not getting a product for what we're buying. We're just being sold the same thing over and over again, and it's not giving us anything in return. Like how many times we have to see something occur in the public forum that doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. Okay, now why have I never watched Candace Owens? Now this is relevant, and I don't want to cast any judgment about Candace as a person. Now, we should be very clear that a person and a persona are two totally different things, right? What you're seeing from me is a person giving out a persona. You don't know me as a person. We don't know Candace as a person. We only know her persona. We only know what she lets us see. We only know what she tells us. And that's all we know. Just like we didn't know Charlie Kirk. Everybody wanted to say after he died, well, I didn't like Charlie Kirk. You didn't know him. So you couldn't like him or not like him. You may not have agreed with his persona, but you didn't know him or like him because you didn't know him. Okay. I have a trust issue. I have a trust issue. And that's what happens when you grow up with a mother like mine, a mother that abandons you. You have trust issues. And so my entire life, I look at everything a little bit different, a little bit judgmental, a little bit skewed. And I am always going to be asking the question, does that add up? Does that make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, then we should all reserve. I'm not saying you should live your whole life not trusting anybody or anything, but we should all reserve a little bit of, we should be a little bit skeptical, anybody who has a public forum. And, to be fair with Candace Owens, she has pointed out that nobody gets to where they are without a little bit of help. So can we not ask the same question? Well, Candace, how did you get to where you are without a little bit of help? Ian Carroll, how did you get to where you are without a little bit of help? Like, did you work hard? Sure. Are you all incredibly brilliant? Like, yeah, you show that off every single day. Like, and I have a deep, deep, deep respect. And I am not in any way trying to say that I am in any way smarter, or more capable than these two. Like, and I'll tell you why I'm bringing up both of them, or why I'm bringing up Ian Carroll as well. But if like Mr. Beast, who gets on YouTube at 12 years old and is just begging, I mean, right? That's all he does is beg, please, please, please follow me, right? That's all he does. And now he's like the biggest YouTuber ever, right? If we can't believe that because his parents are in the military industrial complex, right? Then why do we believe that Candace Owens, just worked really hard in politics, right? And I'm not saying she didn't. I'm not saying these things didn't happen. I just think that we should be allowed to ask these questions. And I think based on Candace Owens' persona, she would agree, right? That's how we get to truth, is by asking questions. So my whole point is, I never watched Candace Owens before because this is a girl who has told us she grew up in the hood. She worked her way into politics. And seriously, let's be fair. Politics opens doors for everyone. I know somebody, my husband grew up with him, who was a lawyer. He went to school. He was a lawyer. He had a very wealthy family, but then he went into politics, and man, the doors that opened, like, and I remember him saying, I don't know if I want to go into politics, and I want to give up everything that I have as a lawyer. Like, I won't make as much money. And he has never, ever turned back. Like, he is in it, right? These politicians open up doors. And Candace isn't a politician, but she's in politics. So fair enough. Maybe that opened the doors. But this is a girl who grew up with nothing, who grew up in the hood, and then she married an aristocrat. I'm sorry, but and I'm not the only one, right? I'm not the only one. She calls that on her show, right? She says it's not fair. Maybe she doesn't say it's not fair, but what she does say is that she talks about Kanye West handlers. She talks about Charlie Kirk's handlers. She talks about her handlers. I'm just saying, that is why I never watched Candace Owens before, okay? I actually knew about Ian Carroll before I knew about Candace. And then, of course, Ian Carroll got in bed with Candace. And, you can get in bed with a lot of people. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Okay, but my point is, none of those things indicate a larger plot. They're just interesting things, and they're interesting things that we should discuss, because if we want to uncover truth, first of all, we have to know who the truth is coming from. And, there's that famous saying that a broken clock is still right twice a day. So truth can come from anywhere, anyone, and anything. But truth by itself, it has to have a backing, it has to have a purpose, and it has to have intent. Okay, so what, right? So what? That is a whole bunch of talk about probably nothing, but so what? Okay, the so what is that, why has it taken this long for Candace Owens and Ian Carroll and Tucker Carlson to figure out that the entire United States and the world government and the politics at large is a scam? It is a huge, massive scam. And for somebody who is definitely not as intelligent as these people, and I don't have a big platform, I don't have a platform at all, why are they finally just now figuring out that it's all a huge scam and that everything is corrupt? I think that is an honest question. Why are you just figuring it out now? So it could be a lot of things. It could be you want to have your head buried in the sand. You want to just close your eyes and ignore it. You don't want to believe that the world is that sinister. You don't want to believe that things like the Truman Show could have any basis in reality. You don't want to believe things like utopia has any basis in reality. You do not want to believe that the government is still as nefarious as it always has been, that it was during the Tuskegee experiments, as it was when the government was giving blankets to the Indians covered in smallpox. Why would now be any different than any point in history when the governments have committed atrocities against their own people? When the Russian government would pull people's intestines out and wrap them around a tree while they were still alive. During the Salem witch trials, when they would literally hang people, hang women for being hysterical, right? And now we have a term, it's called hysteria. And it's because of governments enacting crimes against its citizens for their own benefit. Why is now any different? Are we all just suddenly super civilized and power and money doesn't matter anymore? Because it sure doesn't look that way. It sure looks like money and power still rule the world, or we wouldn't have public assassinations. and we wouldn't have deplatforming, and people would be able to say what they want to say, and freedom of speech would be valued above all else, regardless of what we're saying. But no, we have Pam Bondi up there saying that we are going to police what people say because money and power matter more than anything else. So why are these people that we are supposed to be looking up to just figuring it out? I'm watching Candace Owens, and she says, back when this was last year, she's covering this whole Kamala Harris. And she's asking Democrat voters, can you tell me that this is okay and that you will still vote because of party lines? And I'm just sitting here watching it thinking, why are you voting at all? How do you not know about the Dominion voting systems? How do you not know about Hillary Clinton and Trump literally vacationing together? How do you not know about President Bush, the baby President Bush, and Bono from U2 hugging and vacationing in the Alps together and singing Kumbaya? Like, how do you not know these things? How does just me, little old me, sitting in a corner of my bedroom with a blank colored wall, know these things and you don't? I think it's a legitimate, honest, valid question. All right. Okay. So when she was covering that, she said, the press was asking Donald Trump about whether or not he thought Michael Jackson was a pedophile. And I'll just say, it takes a pedophile to know a pedophile, right? And he says, no way. Michael Jackson was not a pedophile. He just really loved kids. And she said, doesn't that just make you love Donald Trump anymore? I had a friend call me the other day after the whole recent Elon Musk scandal. And she's just like, can you just believe Elon Musk? And I'm just like, you know what? You only hate Elon Musk because it's popular to hate Elon Musk right now. Like, give me a break. Like, you don't know anything about Elon Musk and all of his chimp brain implants that he's trying to do to humans. Like you don't know anything except what the media is telling you. Like, and not to like be nasty about it, but we have to start taking our own intellectual dependency into our own hands, right? We have to stop giving it away. I did one of these live discussions a couple weeks ago about intellectual dependency and about if we are going to let other people think for us or if we're going to think for ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we don't go and listen to everybody. We should listen to everybody. But when I really mean everybody, we should listen to everybody and form our own opinions, not listen to them and take what they have to say and internalize that and just regurgitate whatever they tell us to say. We should really listen to every side of it and then decide at the end of the day, right? Take both paths. We should listen to both sides of it, take them until the road ends and determine that. But we have given away not only our intellectual dependency to universities, to teachers, to the internet, to AI, but we've given away our personhood to the government. And we've let our government we've given away our personhood and relinquished it to government dependency. We do it at church. Like, I had 2 comments a couple days ago on a video that I did about Erica Kirk, and it was about how Jesus preached about love, but I never hear pastors or preachers or prophets or bishops talking about that. And they both regurgitated something that somebody else said. And it was a great thing to say. I don't decry that at all. That's a great thing to say. But when are you reading the scriptures and listening to them and hearing what Jesus said for himself? Or are you just letting somebody else tell you what Jesus said? Because I'll tell you what, I did that for a long time. And I'm not saying we don't all come to a place. We all have to come to a place. And perhaps Candace Owens and everybody is coming to that place, man. There is definitely a huge awakening among the people about who they are going to give away their intellectual, government, religious dependency to. And are they going to take it back themselves? Okay. So all these people, okay. And then that's what Candace said. And then Ian Carroll said a couple days ago or a week ago or however long ago, he was just like, we're all waking up, right? Same thing I'm saying, but he was like, the MAGA train is gone. And we're all now finally seeing it. And I'm like, well, y'all are finally seeing it. Like, wake up. I'm not saying it's too late to wake up. I just am surprised. Okay, we're gonna get off this high horse. And we're gonna go back to just why are you now figuring it out? That's my question, right? And we all have to come to a point where we do figure it out. But I think it's a fair question to ask why now. If you have done as much research as you have done, why now are you just coming to this realization and recognition of the evil forces that have been doing things for centuries, if not all of time? Yeah, definitely all of time. Okay. Now, this is all relevant because of what is happening right now, right? And the catalyst for right now is the Charlie Kirk assassination. It has unleashed just this absolute explosion of people who want answers and people who are willing to give answers. And we are trying to figure out as a human population, who's giving us the right answers. And I'm not going to give you the right answers. Only you can get the right answers. You can listen to me or don't. You can take what I have to say or don't. But don't listen to me and then regurgitate what I said without internalizing it and doing some research for yourself, because then you are just a parrot. So let's talk about what is happening now. The script that we can visibly see in front of us and that we can pinpoint for decades. Okay, but let's take a quick brief break because we have a couple comments. So somebody said, KZ1994 Abel said, true, the Elon haters are just trend hopping. I mean, you see it on both sides. I said a couple weeks ago, like, don't accuse me of being a liberal or a conservative. Don't accuse me of being a Democrat or a liberal, because they are all the same machine and they are just playing you like a fiddle. It is a disgrace. Yeah, I'm assuming you're just talking about like what is happening, in general. And then we've got another comment about MAGA. MAGA is alive and well. What are you talking about? Of course, there's always going to be people that are on both sides of the line, and that they are going to toe that line no matter what, right? That's the whole point, is like, how are you just figuring this out now? When I'm talking about Candace and Ian, like, how are you just figuring this out now? Because you were willing to toe the line. You wanted to be part of the MAGA movement at all costs because your side was right. You weren't willing to look at the research of what does it mean? What does it mean that all these people are together? What does it mean, right? So yeah, for sure, MAGA is its own beast. And there's still a ton of it, but there are a lot of people in the MAGA movement that are waking up, right? That are willing to finally say, oh, I said that Trump was our savior and forgot that he's just a man, right? But we see that throughout all of history. I mean, that's what they did to Hitler, and that's what they did to, I keep going back to Mormon history, but that's what they did to Joseph Smith. That's what they did to Brigham Young. That's what they did to Hitler and Stalin. Everybody has their saviors, and they're never looking in the right place because there's only one. There's only one Jesus Christ, and no man is going to fill that in, no matter who they are. No one. Okay, let's go back. Thank you for your comments. This is awesome. It's an awesome discussion. Obviously, I am like so fired up about this, because if there is one thing that we should be fired up about, right, every single day of the week, is it's our own personal, individual ability to be able to make the decisions that we want to make and live our own life without somebody telling us what's right, what's wrong, what to live, what choices to make. Like, those are intrinsically, that is what freedom is. Freedom isn't being able to walk down the streets. Freedom isn't being able to buy an iPad or an iPhone the second that it comes out, or go to Starbucks, or eat where we want to eat, or drive down the road. That's not freedom. Freedom is the ability to truly be able to think and make decisions on our own without repercussion. That is what freedom really is. And that is what really at the heart of it we're asking ourselves and we're talking about. So let's get into this like brief history since 2001, because that's really when I started questioning things. And what led me to those decisions. These are things that if you're not on the same page as I am, or I want to discuss these things with you, but these are the things that have come up in my research since I started looking into this. So, in 2001, of course. Okay. Before I say this, now, this is also incredibly hard to talk about because not hard as in, these are hard topics, but hard as in the internet changes faster. And I don't mean new stuff is on the internet. I mean, the internet literally changes, right? We have a Wayback Machine for a reason, but the internet is literally being scrubbed daily of content. I mean, 1984, we have a ministry of truth alive and well. It may not be called that, or maybe it is in certain circles that we don't know about, but the ministry of truth is erasing things off the internet faster than you can take a breath, like faster than you can blink. Like stuff is being eliminated all day long, every single day. And that's what makes this so hard, is because you may have read something, you may have looked at it, but unless you saved it, or unless you printed it out, or unless you kept it in a drawer somewhere, like you may never, ever be able to find it again. And one really good example of this is that I am type 1 diabetic. I have been type 1 diabetic for almost 40 years. And I have read article after article. It comes out about every 10 years that they've cured diabetes. It's a miracle. It's amazing. They cured it in some mice and they did some human trials, and it's amazing. And diabetes has been cured. Well, I'm certainly not cured. I'm still wearing this insulin pump. I'm taking, insulin all day long, and I certainly haven't been cured. My daughter hasn't been cured. None of us have been cured. I don't know a single person who's been cured from diabetes, but yet I keep seeing these articles pop every 10 years. So either they just want to give people false hope, or it happens and it gets removed. But you try finding that on the internet. Try finding it, not the most recent one, but in the past, and before that, and before that, and before that. You try finding that and you won't be able to. So that's what makes this so hard, is trying to, and that's how they make people look crazy who have researched this stuff, is by deleting it, right? That's the fastest. It's gaslighting. It's gaslighting 101. Like the second somebody says something, if they can't prove it, now we just all attack them. We just all go after them. Or if you don't prove all your work, or if you don't give away all your information and people don't have to look up anything, then you're the crazy one. A couple comments. I like that. This is again KZ199. I like that Trump doesn't feed into the drama trends on the internet and just goes on with the job he was voted in to do. That's an interesting take. APK says, I like that he says what liberals thinks is wrong and alarming, even if it's not really true. I think if you missed the beginning of the stream, like Trump is playing a part. And the question I have for you is, when does, like during your day, normal every day, how much time do you have? Do you feel like at the end of the day, you have enough time to get done what you needed to get done? Because I know for me, like, I'm like, nope, another day's over. I still have a ton of stuff on my plate. I couldn't even get to all the things that I wanted to do. And I certainly didn't get to do the fun things that I wanted to do because I had too much stuff I had to do, right? And that's because I'm middle class, or I'm poor and I don't have enough time, right? Rich people can get it all done, right? Rich people have butlers and they have people that work for them, right? Is that the question? Because what I keep asking myself is, all you ever see presidents do is tweet, play golf, and hold interviews every single day. When are they running the free world? When are they doing all these things? Like, it's an absolute joke that we've all fallen for, that one man, right? And sure, you've got the Senate and you've got, all of our branches of government, the executive branch and the legislative branch, and they're all doing the work. And he's got millions of minions doing all the work and reading all the bills and summarizing them and telling them what they're doing. And all he has to do is sign some papers and hold some interviews, right? That is not reality. It's just not. So, Donald Trump has a persona. It's not his person, it's his persona. And that persona, calls out the liberals, but he also calls out anybody he doesn't like. And that's a persona. And you know what? I'm not even against that. If you're asking me what I think, I'm not against like holding people's holding people accountable and holding people's feet to the fire. Like if they're doing something that you think is wrong, we should, right? Like, let's be a more open society. Let's talk about everything. Like let's actually talk about morality instead of letting everybody just do whatever they think is right, because there definitely is a base of reality. If we all just do whatever we all think is right, we all have our own version of reality, our own version of morality, then, that doesn't actually mean that anything is right or wrong. It just means everybody can make up their own version of it, and then we have absolute chaos. So yeah, I mean, calling people out, having accountability, but then just being just a despicable human being. And I just mean, the way you talk about your daughter, the way you treat your daughter, the way you treat people that don't say things that you like. Like if we're going to hold people to the fire and disagree with them, like let's also realize and recognize that they're also human beings. And just these ad hominem attacks and just being rude to people because we don't agree with them is not a respectable way to live. Okay, we got another comment. Trump isn't putting on a persona. He's been the same guy as president that he's been this whole time, that he's been his whole life. Yes, that's his public persona. If you want to come at me and say, no, I know Trump in real life, I know him in backdoor, I know him be inside rooms where I know who he is as an individual, then I will take that into consideration. But all you know is what he puts out in public. That's his persona. Our persona is what we put out to the public. And yes, he's always been that way. Absolutely. He's always been that way, which is why I didn't think he was a good guy when he ran the first time. I didn't think he was a savior, and I certainly don't think he is now. But that's how I feel about all politicians. So, okay. So let's get back to the discussion. We can argue about Trump all day long. Okay. So Gibbonomics says wrong. We should have our own versions of morality based in our beliefs and values. Collective thought is dangerous and anti-intellectual. So are you saying that there's no basis in morality? So if I think it's okay to murder and steal, then that is okay. That's my personal belief and I can do that. And if somebody else thinks it's wrong, then they can do that. Because I would argue that morality is, there's a basis where we all have to decide how we're going to live as a community of people. That's not collective thought. That's cohesion and it's agreeance to live in a society together where we respect each other mutually. We don't kill, we don't steal, we don't rape, we don't plunder, we don't do those things because morally they hurt people. And that's what helps everybody succeed. No. Okay, we have another comment. Not a Trump fan. A, has his words offended you? Absolutely not. His words have not offended me. He's just a despicable human being who is on the Epstein list, who has just as much as Biden is. He's sniffed just as many girls in the hair. He has touched just as many girls, and it's all on camera. You can see it just as much as you can for Biden. So let's just not pretend like they're different people. In fact, that's one of my brief history of time is we've basically had the same person as a president of the United States, probably long before Bush Senior, but definitely, at least as far as I know, at least since Bush Senior. So, okay. So let's go into just a brief history of the United States since, hey, I can be out of my mind. Totally. This is my platform and I am totally all over being able to say and have these arguments and have these discussions. I love this. And I appreciate your comments so much. Okay. So so infamous 2001 is when 9/11 happened. Right. And I freely admit I was all over the Patriot Act. I was like, yes, these terrorists came and killed and attacked us on our own soil. And we're America. We can bomb everybody, but they can't come and bomb us. So yes, all for it, Patriot Act. I had no idea what I thought I was saying. I had no idea what I thought I was doing, but that was the tactic. Fear always creates unreasonable responses every single time. That's what fear does. So after the Patriot Act was instated, right? And then, of course, we had Snowden come out and be like, I'm trying to help you guys, I'm trying to help you see. And once again, we should ask ourselves, like, Why wasn't Snowden assassinated? We're afraid of what Charlie Kirk is saying about transgender people, but Snowden is giving away government secrets, but he's allowed to talk, or he's allowed to live, and we're going to make a whole movie about him, right? All of these things are absolutely scripted to either give us a little bit or make us think a little bit or make us give up a little bit of what a little bit of our anger, a little bit of our animosity because oh well, they told us the truth or they gave us something, so yeah, we just absolutely we should trust them again, right? It's these cyclic periods of history and moments where they allow us to have just a little bit, just enough, so that we'll go on continuing to trust. Okay, so after we invaded Iraq, right? But was it Iraq that bombed the Twin Towers? No. And then we went over to Iran, but was it Iran that bombed the Twin Towers? Oh wait, no, that wasn't it either. So we're just going to war, right? We're just going to war. So that's 2011. Then we finally get over to Afghanistan, right? We captured Osama bin Laden twice and killed him twice. Tell me how that's possible. And then we get Saddam Hussein. Now, I would encourage every single person to try and find, first of all, the videos of Saddam Hussein testifying in a court of law to defend himself. And if that doesn't absolutely make you think just a little bit about the United States government's role in world affairs and politics, I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked if that doesn't give you just a little bit of a minute to think and ponder about what Saddam Hussein is saying. So he accuses, first of all, the judge of not really even being a judge, right? It's kind of a kangaroo court. And then he also accuses the United States government and Bush, of course, who is the president of the United States, of committing crimes, right? Committing war crimes and doing exactly what he is saying he's holding Saddam Hussein accountable for, right? And this goes back to, we can bomb everybody, right? We can support all the countries that are bombing everybody. We can send drugs and weapons into other countries and sell them and make their way around the world, but nobody can use them against us because we're America and America first. Okay, so and then what do? After Saddam Hussein says all this stuff, right? And he kind of lets loose. Oh, we just kill him. Just get rid of him. Kill him. And we've already got him in custody. But no, we have to have the death penalty because these people might talk again. And we certainly cannot have that. Okay. Then after that, we find out that, right? Well, we have to. We're in the 21st century anymore. We can't do handwritten ballots. And we've got to have some sort of voting system that's going to tabulate them for us because we've got better things to do with our time and it takes too long. And we're in the 21st century now. So we have enter into the scene Dominion. Now, Dominion voting systems was first in the Philippines and Mongolia. And they were known as a software company called Smartmatic. And they're from Canada. And it makes sense, right? Have a foreign government, a foreign entity and a different government do all of our voting tabulation, right? That's the best way to make sure that it's not rigged, because all of our governments are independent, right? We definitely know that to be true. And so Dominion makes sense because it's based out of Canada. But it was Smartmatic before it was Dominion. And before it was Smartmatic, it was Diebold. Diebold might sound really familiar to many of you. Yeah, they're a banking and retail company. Well, they also decided to get into voting machines, right? Because nothing rules the world if it's not the outcome of who becomes elected and who gets to rule the free world, right? Sorry, really quick. KZ199 says, you seem to think that Trump is a part of that cabal. Wow, words I never used until I just read your comment. So, let's try and my personal opinion is if you're going to have a discussion with somebody, you should use the words that they're using and not just try and make judgments and try and steer a conversation into a direction that you want because it makes you have a higher edge about something you know about. Since I'm the one talking and you want to attack me, you should use the words that I'm saying, just my opinion. And I don't feel like you're attacking me. I don't think it's attacking me to say that. So those were a poor choice of words. I think if you want to have a discussion, you want to have an argument, then use the words that I'm using because I never brought that up. Okay. So before we had, so Dominion, who is now running all of our voting machines, and they have since the early 2000s, they are now called Live Liberty. And I might have that wrong. But they're no longer Dominion because they've been embroiled in so many different election fraud, right? They were Smartmatic in the Philippines because there was some election fraud. Then they went into Dominion. Oh, now they've got to be something new because there was a little bit of election fraud. So we used to have Diebold Election Systems and Software, which is also known as ES&S, Sequoia, and then Hart InterCivic. And everybody sold to guess who? Dominion, right? Because we actually live in a corporatocracy. We don't live in America. We don't live in a constitutional republic. We live in a corporatocracy where corporates run America and they run our politicians. Okay, so we've got Patriot Act, Saddam Hussein, the voting fraud, right? Which we have had voter fraud problems since the original Bush, and it just keeps coming up. And again, if we look at both sides of it, that could just be a way to we have a very conflicted society, and it could be honest, or it could just be constant. I know that when I watched the Biden versus Trump election, we were watching it in real time, and all of a sudden everything went dark. There was some flooding, and all of a sudden the votes were just in a split second, the votes just automatically changed. I will get to your comment in just a minute. Okay. And that should give us all pause, right? This is like one of the things that I'm talking about when we are asking, why are we just now saying America's corrupt? Like, no, it didn't start today. It didn't start yesterday. It didn't even start back in, the last election. It didn't start when we had, Occupy the White House. It didn't start then. This has been going on and going on and going on. So we have Clinton. When Bill Clinton was president, he was totally for, what are we again? What is Trump for now? What is the big hot money topic issue right now? It's to close our borders so that America can be first. America first. That's why Charlie Kirk was killed, right? America first above all else. That was what Bill Clinton was saying back, in the 90s. America first. We need to close our borders. We need safe, vetted immigration. We can't just let people be coming through no matter what, right? Again, if we didn't want people coming through our borders, if the American government didn't want people coming through our borders, they would figure it out. These are people with mass amounts of power. They don't figure it out because there's a larger thing at play. Then you've got Obama. Okay, then you've got the Bush, right? We've talked enough about Bush and the war crimes and Saddam Hussein. Then we've got Obama, right? Who was again the next savior, right? The Democrats looked at Obama the same way that the Republicans look at Trump. And one of the only times that he ever voted in the legislature was when he voted to kill infants. Like, he literally voted for infanticide. If a woman decided once the baby was born and she was at the hospital that she didn't want this baby anymore, it could go sit in a corner and die. And that was incredibly eye-opening, that the person who was elected and who we all voted, right? The majority voted for Obama to be president, was somebody who literally didn't even value human life. And if you want to argue that abortion is great, I'm not going to agree with you. But if we draw the line at a baby being born, at a human being being born, a human being living, breathing, but needs sustenance like we all do. If we don't have food and water as an adult, we die. As an infant, doesn't have food and water, right? Where do we draw the line? And so this is the trend that America, right? I said brief history. Then we get Trump. Biden, Trump again, right? Now, when you're looking at Trump, let's read the comment because we're talking about Trump. KZ199, you were steering in the direction of lumping Trump with the cabal. I never used the word cabal again, with the cabal, with how you're aligning our current government with our past government. No, I'm aligning all governments. And I did. I said, everything is a scam. So yes, I am saying that Trump is part of the scam. Sure. Okay. And I've been very clear about that. I don't know. I don't think you seem to think you don't need, I don't seem to think I am stating it. I am telling you 100%. Yes, he is part of the scam. He's an actor just like everybody else is. Okay. They are all part of the Epstein files. You can go get them. You can go get the Epstein files yourself. You can get the little black book. I have it saved on my computer. It's probably going to go missing tomorrow, but I have it saved. You can go get it yourself. Go look at it. It's not that hard to find. We don't need Pam Bondi to release them. We don't need Kash Patel to tell us what's in them. We already know. We already know. The names have been released. The survivors, the people who have accused them, the victims, they've all named names. We already know. They are up there with U2. Bono's up there decrying President Bush and what a bad guy he is. And then they're up in the Swiss Alps hugging and going skiing together. There's tons of famous pictures of them doing that. Clinton and Trump were in bed together. He gave millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation, which we all know was just funneling back to the Clintons. There was no foundation. There was no money they were donating, and Trump was a huge part of it. The money is just going around. The laundering is just going around and around and around. All the photos of Biden and Trump and every single other dirty, nasty old politician sniffing young women and doing who knows what behind closed doors. They're all in the Epstein files. They all are at the parties. They're all doing the same exact thing. In Texas, where I live, at least for the next little while, on September 1st, Texas State signed into law 800 laws. Who's going to do that? First of all, who's going to read those laws? 800 laws. Who possibly, right? Okay, going back to the president who has time to golf. Again, I'm going to tell you the last time I golfed or went snowboarding or did anything that I like to do. I mean, I guess I like doing this podcast. Can possibly read 800 bills. I couldn't even have AI read them for me and then tell me, like, how am I possibly going to know what all these bills are? Why do we constantly need government telling us what we can and can't be doing it? You want to argue about morality? Let's just read that comment again. We should have our own versions of morality. Is that why we need 800 laws passed into effect? Because everybody's got their own idea of morality? Like, we have to have a consensus on how we're going to live in society together. We have to have a consensus on what is right or wrong. Collective thought is absolutely not the same as morality. Collective thought is giving away your intellectual dependency to somebody else. It's when we listen to somebody like me, for instance, and I love that you're disagreeing with me, even though you've got it a little bit wrong, is that when we listen to a pastor, a preacher, a president, a government, a podcaster, an influencer, and we just regurgitate what they're going to say. That's collective thought. Collective thought is when we all think and believe the same thing because somebody told us to. That's not the same as agreeing on morals. It's not even in the same like wheelhouse or collective. We have to decide like what is right, what is wrong, and we have to figure it out. And great. It's great that the people, the number one podcaster in America, Candace Owens, is finally saying it's all a scam. My question is, why are you just figuring it out? Like, let's take a look at these things. Let's just stop arguing about the stupidity of which party line we're on, about whether or not Trump's a real guy. And let's start saying, okay, what is freedom? Where do we fall in this line? And are we giving away? Are we dependent upon the government for everything that we think? All of our laws, right? We have to have laws to exist in a society together. But are we dependent on government to tell us how to behave? Are we dependent on government to tell us what's right and wrong? Are we dependent upon government to tell us what we can and can't do, what we can and can't say, where we can and can't go, where we can travel, what we can do, who we can listen to? Like, it is. I am thrilled. I'm thrilled that people are figuring it out, but it's justifiable to ask, why now? If you're so smart, so big, you've uncovered all of these lies that have been told to us. Why now? And the answer could be simple. The answer could be, it just took me this long to figure it out, and that's justified. Great. But I think the deeper question at play is, if you don't believe it's all a scam, why? Whose talking points are you parroting? And if you don't believe you're parroting somebody else's talking points, you better make damn sure that you know what you're saying. All right. That was super heated. That was super duper heated. I think we have one more comment. I knew it was going to get heated. I didn't know it was going to get that heated. All right. Bongino says nobody is in there, and Epstein act alone. Oh, I know. Dan Bongino, right? Podcaster, influencer turned, celebrity politician. So ridiculous. At least Candace Owens does seem to have like a legitimate background, right? Oh boy. Right now, if she starts going into politics, then I'm really going to have a problem. Okay. Well, so this week we talked about government dependency. Next week, we're going to talk about religious dependency. And yeah, sure. I said a few things about the religion that I grew up, because that's the only one that I know the best, right? I don't know about Catholicism. I don't know about Episcopal, whatever. Jehovah Witnesses. I had a really good friend growing up, and we couldn't be friends because she was Jehovah Witness, but we were friends secretly at school when her mom wasn't around. But the fact that we give away so much of our intellect, our freedom, and our dependency to religion to tell us what's right, tell us what's moral, tell us what's right, tell us what Jesus wanted us to do. Hey, guess what? None of the people that live today lived when Jesus lived, right? They have no greater ability to interpret the scriptures or to pray than you do. So are we giving away our religious dependency to somebody else, to a church, to an organization? We're going to talk about how religions have really fueled the world. And then I'm probably going to take a little break because it's Christmas. But one thing I really, really, really want to talk about, and I would really urge Candace Owens to talk about or to look into, to research, is, yesterday she did a podcast on Monday, and it was about France buying up land in America. Who else do we know is buying up land in America? Israel, right? We have these three entities, the US, France, and Israel, buying up land in America. Do you know who else is buying up land in America? The Mormons. The Mormons are buying up land in America. So what do the Mormons have in common with all these things? And she's made several allusions to it on her show. I think she has something brewing in the works. I, for one, am really excited to hear what it is. But maybe we'll get into that, or I'd like to get into that in the new year. But for now, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for having a wild, very riveted discussion with me today. APAC asks, are you still Christian? Yes, absolutely. I do not affiliate. I don't think that religious affiliation can determine my relationship with God. So I will say that, but I cannot deny that God is a powerful force. And I don't really think, if we look around, that any of us can truly say that with sincerity. Even the most prolific and ardent supporters of atheism agree that there is some universal force. They don't have to call it God for it to still be God. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for getting all fired up with me this week. Thanks for all your comments. It was really, really fun discussion for me. And I hope that you'll tune in again. I would, of course, love it if you liked and subscribed. That's always fun. But thanks again for watching, and we will check you out next week.